Howdy everyone. I wanted to take a look at one of my favorite lists actually that I did, worst religious cartoons. I really liked doing this one because it was essentially making something out of nothing, and I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I was so proud of the comments and the community and the kind of way they came together. Because I expected a lot of backlash for this one, basically saying, oh, you're making fun of religion and that sort of thing. And in a way I was, I'm not a religious person myself, but the real message I was trying to get across was that it's fine to have a religious belief. A lot of my friends are religious. One of my closest friends is a strong Christian. But at the same time, you don't manipulate kids at a young age. Because that's when their brain is moldable, and it's much easier to manipulate a child and instill these beliefs in them and almost force it upon them as an adult. So I was really trying to get that across, kind of. And to start with, this is Jot. This one was quite an old one, and to be honest, I admit I was a bit harsh on it, because it's basically just, a Sunday school cartoon with, there's really nothing harmful about it. It wasn't, insulting or anything. That footage, in case you were wondering, is actually from Rugrats. They had an episode where they were, going to the dentist and stuff, and they really do look like teeth to me. The main problem with this one, actually, I found, was it's really hard to get footage of, I think, what was it, 1970s, 60s? It's really old, and it just looks trippy and a bit jotty, but people didn't seem to mind, when the quality's a little bit lower. And, oh yes, in this part here, I don't know if this worked, if it was too cheesy or not, but I just love the fact that I love the skit for some reason of just being continually attacked by God every time I make fun of it. It's like divine retribution for me being a jerk. Which is, you could say I'm being a bit of a jerk by making fun of these cartoons, which are only, trying to do, well, no, some of them are trying to manipulate kids, but generally that's trying to teach good morals. And yes, in terms of not Booples, Dorbies, this one actually, I think Enter's talked about it as well. It was definitely one of the ugliest cartoons I've ever seen. Very, very, very cheap quality CG, but again, it's relatively harmless. This is probably my favorite of the ones on the list, of the worst, because there is a religious incentive behind it, but it's not the main focus, and it is quite self-deprecating, actually. It's just really ugly. Look at some of those colors. Every time I show someone these clips straight up, they're like, oh my god, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And I don't know, I did a 3D animation course once, and that was kind of the stuff I made as well, but, yes, and Donkey Ollie. Donkey Ollie, again, it looks, I'm not going to say it looks okay, it looks cylindrical and kind of unpleasant, but, it's just so dull, this one. Out of all the ones I did, possibly the sheep one was more boring, but this one was really dull, basically just Bible stories, and the voice acting was so bad. It was okay on Jot. It was probably the best of them on Jot, but the voice acting on this one, the pitches were wrong. It was just really unpleasant. And they all look incredibly simple and kind of bare bones, and they were probably done on a bare bones religious budget. And I suspect everyone on staff for most of these was over 50, because they just had little to no understanding of kind of what kids are going to enjoy and stuff. Oh, well, no, not all of them, obviously, because Farmer John's Corner, look, in their 30s or 40s, but you get what I mean, of an older demographic, and not necessarily understanding of what the kids might like to see. Farmer John's Corner. This seriously was so much more entertaining to me when I watched it than the actual Donkey Ollie show. I like Farmer John. He's a nice guy, and he's got a few friends over there, as you can see. I think I show some footage of them there. And they're basically making stuff, I think. And I don't know. I wonder. I guess they just came out into their garden and said, "Oh, let's do this for the kids as well." And I get struck by lightning again with my terrible effect. I do like that. Yeah. In case anyone's wondering, the footage from that part for the countdown is actually drawn together. Essentially, they made fun of the Veggie Tales. They called them the Veggie Fables, and essentially called them religious propaganda. And essentially, they say, "Oh, if you masturbate, you go to hell," and start scaring him. And of course, his masturbation is actually helping a lot of people and healing a lot of people. Don't ask. It's a very weird episode. His X parts kind of heal people weirdly, which I think has a good message behind it, but yeah, is obviously not for the under 18 crowd. Yeah, and obviously I don't even need to say this, but you need to jerk off, go for it, absolutely, and it's like I hate that about Catholicism is they're like, oh, you should go to hell for masturbating. We're freaking born from monkeys. We eat crap and masturbate. That's how we operate, It's I don't know. Religion teaches some very, very stuff that's very bad for mental health upon kids at a very young age. So it's why I really did try to push this kind of that you don't manipulate kids like that. There really wasn't much to say about that sheep one. It was boring. It was like the most boring of on the religious list, so that's why I did go off on a tangent there. However, there is a bit to say about Booples, because only a week ago I was actually contacted. By the way, yes, GodTube does exist. It's unbelievable. It's like this was too good to be true. Some of this stuff that I found, I'm like, oh, there is so much to make fun of here. I love it. Oh, and listen to this voice here. When you're definitely one of the worst voice actings I've ever heard in my... What was he even trying to be? How did he outsound it all like a sheep? Or he didn't even sound like an old man. He sounded like a youngish man trying to imitate an old man. It was terrible. Anyways, the creator of Booples, I was saying before, actually contacted me about a week ago and basically paid out my channel saying I'm overly negative, and I admittedly probably shouldn't have made a swearing reference there, and I didn't actually swear, but some people laughed at it, and I'd say that's probably one of my bigger botch-ups, because I do tend to try and make sure younger viewers are able to watch it well, and I try not to ever swear. So he called me out on that and said, "Oh, you're overly negative on your stuff," and yeah, it was so obvious it was the creator of Booples. I'm just like, you're defending this, I was tempted to say something like, well, pretend I didn't know it was him and say, well, don't worry, I'm sure you would you would care much more about the children watching than the creator of Booples, who obviously didn't care at all. But no, I thought, no, don't feed the trolls, even if the trolls is the creator of one of the crappy cartoons you reviewed. Yeah, but Booples, I stand by everything I said about that cartoon. It's just ugly, it's lazy, they try to appeal to the religious parents to give them something, but they're giving them nothing. I just could not stand Booples particularly. Absolutely 100% took number 2 place. But, there was a lot to make fun of, and we enjoyed it. And again, that was the thing I loved about this list, is we could take kind of nothing and very average cartoons and make something fun out of it. And also, I've never seen any of my competitors do anything, well, not competitors, but other people who do cartoon reviews kind of talk about religious cartoons, and I thought it was such a neat kind of mix-up. I just love the concept. I wish there was more I could do with this sort of thing, like make cult cartoons or something like that, a really kind of esoteric list, if I'm using that word correctly. Yes, and Bible Man I found, and I was like, I know it is based off the live action. I originally found the live action, I was like, oh, they made an animated adventures. This is so perfect for the list. And it was, I watched it through, and it was so manipulative, but hilariously manipulative. Like, they obviously had it was so 90s corny, we're trying to appeal to the kids, but have no idea how to do it, like they like flashy stuff, but let's also put the Bible in as the religious undertone, but it was so obvious. It was just comically awful, and you know, you can see that here. So, and that's a nice thing, taking something that was meant to be manipulative and making some fun from it. And I love that the villains are actual. I was rooting for the villains. I seriously was. At least they were trying to make them think in a secular, open-minded manner, saying like, "Oh, well, maybe you should consider this." Like the scientist actually makes them think about, "Oh, what if there's this option as well?" There is nothing wrong with the Master of Maybe is called Maybe, but as though it's a bad thing, but there is nothing wrong with saying maybe to everything. Absolutely, as I say in the conclusion, question everything you find. Question everything you want to question. It's part of why we have scientific understanding and a scientific reasoning today is because we ask why. We try to disprove things wrong. Nothing is, infallible to science. Nothing can't be questioned. And that's the beautiful thing about scientific understanding, is that we can develop further and further knowledge from it. And it doesn't mean you can't have things that are sacred to you personally, but that is science. That is that we can question these things and learn more about ourselves, human condition, being alive, all these wonderful things, the universe. And yeah, but that is all, I went off a tangent there, but that's all the direct opposite of this, because this is just Bible, man. Oh. You got to admit, though, it's very colorful animation. Like, it looks very generic, but at the same time, very colorful. I don't know. I think they made, like, the first 10 episodes, then they just completely cancelled it. That was quite a weird one, the footage I used there. I can't remember what it was called. The Bible Adventures or something. The Book Adventures or something. It was quite weird, but actually quite well done. And there were a couple of really good religious cartoons where I was like, oh, these are okay. Like the Hanna-Barbera religious cartoons were okay. They were basically just retelling the stories and giving it a lot of flavor. I remember seeing those ones as a kid, and they were really good. Strike him again. It's good we can be self-deprecating, and make fun of yourself. Yeah, anyway, I just really wanted to go through this list because I really enjoy this particular religious cartoon. The community was amazing. I thought it was good making something out of nothing. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.